Welcome, everyone. We're so glad you guys came. Our goal tonight is to be a blessing to you. First of all, what happened with the schools wasn't right, but we applaud you for having the courage to stand up for your children and to try and do what's right by them. We want to thank you and support you. Some of you have never even given homeschooling a second thought. Not even 2 weeks ago. Some of you are feeling completely overwhelmed, don't know where to begin, but we are here to help you. We want to show you that homeschooling is completely doable and that it truly can be a great option for you. When we heard what happened with the health department collaborating with the local superintendents to mandate masks for school kids the last weekday before school started, our hearts grieved for the stress you all were experiencing. And we knew we just needed to do something to help. So we prayed for you, and we came up with this great idea. Hopefully you think it's a great idea too. You were handed a resource list when you came in. I want you to know that that is just barely scratching the surface. That's so not even the tip of the iceberg. If we were to combine all of the resources available to you, you would have a 200-page catalog. So homeschoolers have done their very, very best to remove the bad things that the public schools have inherently in their system, and we've tried very hard to capitalize on the good things. And so that's why there are so many options. And usually you can do it in a whole lot less hours than they're doing it in a day. Less than a week ago, we decided to host this information night with a small army of people stepping up to help. And I just wanted you to see the people that are here to support you. So of all of you with homeschool experience that are here to support the newcomers, if you would please stand just a minute. All of these people came together to make this night happen. We are here to support you. We want to make this doable for you. So we're here to answer your questions. We're here to pray with you if you would like prayer. We are here to talk to you about curriculums. We're here to show you the ropes. Some of our homeschool groups are already filled because we also didn't get advance notice you guys would be coming, but we are scrambling to give you more opportunities to plug into academically. Just a few housekeeping details. On the other side of this wall, there are bathrooms for the church, and those are the only bathrooms that we're using tonight. There's also a room next to it, which is a coffee room, and we're using that for if you need to get away from the hubbub of the noisy room in there and you'd like a place to quietly have a conversation or talk. That's where you can go. That's also a good prayer room. So we're going to have, David Coleman was going to be our attorney tonight. He's very famous here in Michigan, but was unable to make it because he got sick. But as the Lord provides, the attorney who's in charge of the state of Michigan for HSLDA, which is Homeschool Legal Defense Association, stepped up to the plate to fill his spot for us. He couldn't fly in from Virginia on a half day's notice, but he is Zooming in. So he's going to be here to talk to you about the legal aspects of homeschooling, and then you guys get to ask him a few questions. After that, the expert panel is going to come up here, and you're looking at approximately 100 years of homeschooling experience on your expert panel. So they're going to share from their experience, and then you get to ask them all those questions you've been wondering where you're going to find the answers to. And if they can't find the answer tonight, we will figure it out and get you the answer, okay? All right, so we're going to open in prayer.
For those who would want to rise, let's all pray together for the start of this evening. Almighty God, we thank you for being our Father in heaven, that we can be provided for by your kind, loving hand to give us our daily bread and the things that we need. We thank thee for giving us the gift of children who we can love and raise. And we thank you for giving us the privilege to train them and teach them spiritually, morally, educationally. And we pray for every one of us as parents tonight that you would help us to do this for your glory and honor, and that we would view this as a privilege, a blessing, and a gift. The devil would like to tell us it's a burden and it's heavy. And we thank you tonight for carrying us and giving us wisdom and help. And we pray that for every one of the parents considering taking on this role of teaching their children at home or in other ways. And we ask for your wisdom and help and strength and courage to calm the anxiety and fear, to give clear thoughts, understanding of the path that each one of us are heading down, and to know that this is the center of your will, that we as parents would be the primary influence, teaching and training our children, and that we wouldn't pass that off to anyone else, for you've given us this call, and you will help us to it. Please bless the speakers tonight, bless the hearers. Let your name be magnified. We thank you for our Savior, Jesus Christ, who died for our sins and rose from the dead. And we worship you, Lord, in Jesus' name. Amen. So we welcome Mike Donnelly from the Homeschool Legal Defense Association to join us and share on the legal aspects of homeschooling. This organization has been a huge benefit and help to our family and many others here. So we're thankful to have you with us tonight and appreciate your sharing with us.
Well, thank you. Can you hear me all right? Is their audio working okay? I heard you just fine. Are you hearing me? I'm going to wait to start talking until I get an affirmative response.
Yes, Mr. Donnelly.
Love coming out to Michigan, especially because I get to see Dave Coleman occasionally. And, you know, he's shirking tonight, but, you know, he'll be back at some point. And he's a great friend of mine. And he is a tremendous asset to not only the Michigan homeschooling community, who he has labored for decades serving and, you know, working on from the very earliest days of pioneers, even to today, when I have a problem that I can't that I can't solve, either easily or otherwise, the person I call to help me is Dave Coleman. When I get a thorny call, a difficult situation that requires an attorney, Dave is the person I call, and he gets it done. He and his son Steve are incredible. Not only is he an asset, of course, to the Michigan homeschool community, but to Christianity in general in Michigan and in the country. The work that they're doing with the Great Lakes Justice Center is incredible. You probably heard about the ruling today that came out that they won over the weekend. If you haven't, you should look it up. But thank you for inviting me to talk about homeschooling and homeschooling law in Michigan. And I can talk about some other things first, because the law is so simple in Michigan and so straightforward that it'll take me 2 seconds to explain it to you. And so what I want to start with is, as I was listening to the person who was praying, it really struck me, because I didn't know what I was walking into this evening. My assistant said, Dave Coleman is not feeling well. Can you step into this thing? And I had two thoughts. One is, well, if Dave's involved, it's either really good or it's really questionable. So when I heard the pastor preaching, I figured, okay, this is in the good side, not the questionable side. Anyway, but as I was listening to the prayer, I thought to myself, you know, Deuteronomy 6:4 has the answer here. When we think about homeschooling and what our role is as parents, and those of you who are new, who are thinking about embracing this new way of taking on the responsibility of education, which you have, in case you didn't know it. All parents are responsible for the education of their children. We're accountable to God for for the children he gives us. The question is whether you're going to do it all the time, every day, or if you're going to delegate that to somebody else. And as a parent, you certainly do have the authority to delegate, some of the tasks of homeschooling, but you can't delegate your responsibility, because ultimately God will hold us accountable. Now, our children grow up and then they make their own decisions, but for the time we have them, we have an obligation. And what Deuteronomy says is, we are to love the Lord our God with all our heart, mind, soul, and strength. And the commandments that he gives us are to be on our heart, and we are to impress them on our children, right? The writer of Deuteronomy says, impress them on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home, when you walk along the road, when you lie down, and when you get up. Tie them as symbols on your hands, bind them on your foreheads, write them on the door frames of your houses and on your gates. That's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. It's hard to do that when you send your children off on the yellow bus wearing a mask or not wearing a mask, getting a shot, not getting a shot, which everybody's arguing about these days, and why homeschooling is continuing to grow. It's hard to do that when you're sending them into those godless institutions on the yellow bus for 10 hours a day, 8 hours a day, whatever it is. And they're teaching against what you believe, because it's unconstitutional to teach God and about Jesus Christ in the schools in Michigan or in any state in the United States. As Christian parents, I want to just tell you, and as a Christian parent myself, homeschooling parent of 7, 3 graduated from college, 1 in college, and 3 left to go. Homeschooling is the best way for Christian parents to do what God has called us to do. And it's that good because it gives us the time we need to disciple our children into a relationship with God through Jesus Christ. And what's more important, who your child knows or what your child knows? Who your child knows determines their eternal destiny. What your child knows, maybe that will get them a job and they'll get through life. So I just wanted to make those few comments here at the very beginning and encourage you that homeschooling is a great way for you as a Christian parent to fulfill your responsibility to steward, and as a steward of your children. Now, when people are confronting homeschooling in any state, whether it's Michigan or not, there are a lot of questions they ask, and how do you comply with the law is one of the first ones that they do and should ask, because if you don't comply with the law, you can get in trouble, because not sending your children to school is a crime, and you can be prosecuted for it. And it used to be that sometimes people would be investigated for neglect if they were homeschooling. That doesn't happen as much anymore, although it does still happen in some places. Now in Michigan, there are 2 ways that you can homeschool. You can homeschool either by providing what's called an organized program of instruction in certain subjects, and it's the basic subjects that, the basics, math, science, history, reading, that sort of thing. And the second way is by forming a non-public school. And Michigan is so, forward thinking back in 1996. They said, not only can you do one or the other, but you can do both, which makes Michigan like, yeah, you can do whatever. And as long as you're teaching the required subjects. There is no requirement that you notify, submit any kind of education plan or notice of intent or any paperwork to any school district. Anybody who, says to you, if you're withdrawing your children from school, and I was talking to several people in Michigan today because the schools were telling them that they had to do certain things. If anybody tells you that, they're just wrong. That is not what the law requires. The law doesn't require you to tell the schools that you're homeschooling. Now, that doesn't mean you shouldn't tell them, or at least, have some kind of formal interaction with them to say, guys, we're heading out. You're not going to see Johnny tomorrow because we're homeschooling. So take him off your roll, stop counting him absent. Because if they keep counting him absent, he's truant until we get it sorted out. And most of the time that's pretty easy to sort out, but sometimes it can create some conflict, which results in a social worker or truancy officer or police officer popping over to your house, knocking on the door and saying, hey, what's going on with Johnny or Janie? And that's, one of the reasons why HSLDA continues to have a very vital role in homeschooling, with millions and millions of homeschoolers dealing with thousands and thousands of school officials all over the country, including Michigan. There's a lot of school officials who either A, don't like homeschooling, B, don't understand homeschooling, or C, both. And so when you have that kind of recipe, you have a recipe for conflict. And so at HSLDA, one of the things we do is we help resolve those conflicts. In Michigan, it tends to be fairly straightforward, but why, do you want to have to deal with the truancy officer, the police officer, the school if they're hassling you? That's why people join HSLDA, and I would encourage you, if you're thinking about homeschooling, you can join HSLDA. It's not very expensive, about $10 a month. You can get peace of mind and access to the resources that we have. We have a Michigan page that will explain the ins and outs of homeschooling, what you have to do, what you don't have to do. And again, like I said, very simple. Teach an organized program of instruction in the required subjects. That's it. Or you can form a non-public school, and if you do that, you have to teach the subjects that are commonly taught in schools, or both. And there are reasons why you might want one or the other, which I'm sure the panel of experts who you'll have up on stage later will explain. Well, if you do this way, you get this, or that way, that, and there's a lot of ins and outs, and I don't want to get into that. They'll probably address it. But so the legal aspects, homeschooling, very straightforward in Michigan. And are there any questions that you want to chat to me instead of getting all that awful feedback? I'd be happy to answer some questions through the chat or comments. Or if there's something else you want me to say or talk about. I heard the pastor preaching, or whoever was praying before, pretty well without feedback. So maybe you have to kind of mess with the technology to get it to work. So I'm happy. I can stick around for a little bit longer. Happy to interact with you folks for a while. But while you're getting the technology set up, I want to commend those of you who are here tonight investigating homeschooling. It's the best thing you could do for your child.
Mr. Donnelly, can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes. You
Awesome.
can
We'll
hear
have
me.
questions, but we may not have their beautiful faces. Is that okay?
Sure, yeah.
All right. I'm going to pass this over.
Hi. I'm curious about the legal liabilities of, in Grand Rapids, there's a homeschool building where you have kids come. What sort of insurance liabilities, legal liabilities do you need to have covered?
Well, so as a homeschooling parent, homeschooling your children, you don't need to have any kind of insurance. I mean, it's kind of already taken care of. You don't have to insure yourself against bad education, although interesting, there have been cases along the way, of kids suing their parents, but hopefully they won't sue you over your education of them. But if you're starting a homeschool group, that's a really good question. And I've heard about this homeschool building in Grand Rapids before. But if you're starting a homeschool group, you're getting into another set of very important activities, because homeschool groups are extremely important to helping homeschooling families homeschool successfully. Just like churches, we were designed by God to do things in community, worship in community, help each other in community, and that's what homeschooling parents do by starting co-ops, starting groups to help each other teach certain subjects or to have social interaction for the children, to help each other, encourage one another, from moms who mostly do the work, to commiserate and to encourage each other and to support each other. So it's important to have groups. HSLDA has a special page for groups, which if you're thinking about starting a group, I would encourage you to go to hslda.org and click on our groups page. And we've got a whole set of resources there, including links to some insurance companies who insure homeschool groups. Because if you're getting a bunch of kids together with adults, there's definitely some things you need to be thinking about in terms of insurance, protocols, background checks, those kinds of things, which even if you're not legally required to do it in a homeschool co-op, you still might want to do some of those things. And we have those resources there. We also have an attorney at HSLDA whose job it is to advise groups. His name is Darren Jones. And if you want to get in touch with him, members of HSLDA have access to Darren and can ask questions and set appointments to talk with him. And so insurance, good question. but there's a lot more to it than just that.
Hi, this is my first year homeschooling my daughters, and my youngest has an IEP in speech. I called the local school district, Kentwood, which we are through, and they said that I needed to register with the state of Michigan in order to have her help get with her IEP. I've tried to look into other resources, but a tutoring company was like $350 a month so far that I found. I want to know, like, with registering, do I have to register? Is it, if I register, is it bad? Like, I don't want the government to be in my business because I put my girls out, because I don't want the government to be in our business.
That's a really good question. Thank you for asking that question. You know, special education in Michigan is an interesting topic when it comes to homeschoolers. There is no law that gives homeschooling families a legal right to get special education services from the schools. However, in Michigan, if you register your homeschool with the Michigan Department of Education, because of a variety of court decisions and policy interpretations that they have come up with at the MDE, they will give you the services. Okay, but they do want you to register, and there's no law that says that they can't do that, and so therefore they can. Because in order to, you know, like in other states, there are laws that say homeschoolers have an equal right to get special education services, and the states get to decide that. They get to determine that. And they come from the federal government, so there's some interaction with federal law, and federal law does not require that homeschoolers get special education services. So I know if you have a child who needs certain services, you may choose to continue that with the public school. That can be difficult. Some people like it, some people don't. But if you want to, the easiest way for that to continue would be to register. Now, I also want to encourage you to pursue a claim with your insurance company, your health insurance company, because many times these kinds of interventions, speech therapy, occupational therapy, some of these other therapies that children get through their IEP at the school are also available through insurance plans. And it's not something that people know very much. So, you know, depending on the kind of insurance that you have with your family, that may be something that would be provided by your insurance company. You'd have to get, you might have to get a doctor to diagnose a particular condition. For example, dyslexia is considered a medical type condition. So if a child is dyslexic, the doctor can diagnose that. And, many insurance companies do provide coverage for those kinds of therapies for children. Sometimes they may give you a hard time. HSLDA does get involved in situations to try to clarify when insurance companies go back and say, just get it through the school. We'll write letters and try to assist you. So I hope that helps you somewhat with that question. It's a good question.
Okay. Hi, my name's Hope. It's my first year as well, too. And I was just wondering, is there any legal aspects that we need to know if we want to ever register our kids back into school?
Hope, that's a great question. Welcome to homeschooling. My hope is that you're going to love homeschooling. Your daughter's going to love homeschooling, that you're not going to want to put her back in school. But that's not a decision you need to make right now. And don't get afraid. Okay. Don't get nervous. Homeschooling is something you can take one day at a time, 1 month at a time, 1 year at a time. A lot of people say, we'll just take it 1 year at a time, and they took it 1 year at a time for 20 years. Some people take it 1 year at a time, and they take it for 1 year. So your question's a good one. So here's what I would say about re-enrolling your children in public school. There is no requirement that the schools give you credit, recognize what you did in homeschooling. There are some states where there are laws that do require that. Michigan is not one of them. However, what schools will typically do is they will assess your child and they are generally required to do that by policy and also law, actually. And they have to assess a child to make sure that child is placed at the appropriate level based on their age and ability. So, if, you know, chances are if you homeschool for a year, your daughter's going to be ahead of her peers in school. So if you put her back, she'll either go in the same grade that she would have gone into, or maybe she'll even go ahead. Who knows? You know, every child's different. Every child in homeschooling can move at their own pace. That's one of the beauties and benefits of homeschooling, is that you can tailor a program that's flexible, that meets each child's individual learning needs, and they will be able to go at the pace that's best for them. Sometimes that's faster than other kids. Sometimes that's slower than for other kids. And in either case, that's just fine. You know, you don't need to be concerned if your child is necessarily going slower, unless they're slacking. If they're slacking, or they're being lazy, well, then you need to be concerned. But you need to be concerned about the laziness, not necessarily about the fact that they're not keeping up, so to speak. So you got to diagnose those things. But that's how it works when you re-enroll your children in school. The school has ultimate authority about placement. And of course, if you don't agree, you can appeal and you can argue with them and that sort of thing. But I hope that you and your daughter are going to love homeschooling and you're not going to want to go back.
Mr. Donnelly, we're in the
Yes.
state of Michigan, and I know you're very familiar with our state law, that there's 181 days in a school year, and that schools need to be teaching 6 hours a day. What are those requirements for homeschoolers?
Yeah, homeschoolers do not have that requirement. In homeschooling, you pick your school calendar, you pick the days, you pick the hours. And, you know, look, I've been homeschooling my kids for 20 some years, and the panel of experts, I wonder if I know any of them, are going to come up and they're going to tell you probably, maybe, hopefully, what I'm going to tell you, which is you can get a whole lot done in homeschooling, a lot more done in 2 or 3 hours than it takes the public schools 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 hours to do. There's a reason for that when you understand how education works and how learning works, and it's called academic engagement. You know, what kind of academic engagement is happening in schools? It's not very active. In most school classrooms, children are sitting around, they're listening, they're not listening. It's passive, it's very passive. In a homeschooling environment, we have the ability to create a lot of active engagement. And that active engagement is happening whenever your child is engaging actively with the material. That's when learning takes place, okay? And so that's why homeschooling, that's one of the main reasons that homeschooling works. I think the other reason homeschooling works so well is because God designed children to naturally want to do what their parents value. Now, I know I have 7 kids, so I know that, you know, I value clean rooms. I value Lego-free floors, okay? But it doesn't always happen. Anyway, because it hurts to step on the Legos. But I know you're like, what are you talking about? But when you invest yourself and your energy in homeschooling your child is going to, whether they like it or not or know it or not, going to want to please you, and they're going to excel to the best of their ability. Now, not all of them will. Some of them can be oppositional. I've talked to enough homeschooling parents who have had difficult situations with rebellious children. Homeschooling is not a panacea for sin, okay? There's only one person who can solve that problem, and that's Jesus, right? So when you're having those problems in your homeschool, you know, don't blame homeschooling. Take the heart of the child to the cross, and that's where we solve the sin problem, and hopefully it'll all that justification, sanctification will spill over into the homeschooling environment. But you know, wherever 2 or more are gathered, there's friction, and Jesus, and we need Jesus to help alleviate the friction in our families. But you don't have to do 181 days. There's no required calendar, no required hours of instruction. You know, homeschooling is about, it's a different way of learning. You know, you want to take a vacation? Go. You know, the best time to go to the museums is during the day when the kids are in school during the week. Have at it. Have your field days. Go when nobody else is there, and you'll enjoy it.
Mr. Donnelly, we can't thank you enough for joining us tonight on such short notice. Thank you.
Well, I guarantee that you left more. Well, no, you probably didn't left more because Coleman is really funny. You probably would have left a little bit more with Dave Coleman. I hope you guys had some laughs and that I was encouraging to you, and that every single one of you who came in the doors tonight wondering if homeschooling was the right thing for you, I hope that you are now convinced that it is. And now you're going to ask the panel of experts all the difficult, tricky questions that I probably couldn't have answered. So thank you so much for inviting me to be part of your evening. I wish you all the very best. God bless.
Microphones and I don't get along, obviously. So if I could have the expert panel come up, please. I neglected to tell you earlier that this is just part of what we have to offer you tonight. The gym is full of homeschool groups that are here to talk to you about their programs. It's full of extracurricular activities, including sports, band. I can't think of all of it. There's also home-baked cookies and desserts, and all of these homeschool experts will be there for you to interact with and ask questions. All you need to do is look at their tags, and it'll tell you where their expertise is, and it'll tell you which person is best able to connect with you. We have several homeschool graduates here, too, that you Hi. that you can ask questions of. And we sincerely hope that you will. We would like to befriend you. Okay. So first up on our expert panel, you can all have a seat, is Tammy Westrate, and she's here from Michigan, Michigan Christian Homeschool Network. And they host an event that is like 400 times bigger than the one in the gym. But it's in May, and that wasn't going to help you a lot this year. But she can tell you all about what Mission does.
Welcome, everybody. Mission is close to my heart because there was a time when I was just like you, and my daughter wasn't doing well in school, and we didn't have the government in our face. And we decided we're going to homeschool her. So I went up to Newaygo to a very small church and went to a homeschool conference, and it was maybe twice this size. And then we homeschooled her. And we didn't have family support, we didn't have church support. We didn't have very many friends support. We muscled through that first year, one in school, one home, one preschool, one baby. And then it came around to May. Hey, you should go to this INCH conference. Okay. It's a little pricey, but that's okay. $60 for a couple. Let's try this and see what we can't do. Well, we felt like Elijah for about 9 months until we went to INCH. We walked into Obadiah's cave, where God had close to 5,000 people in Lansing that all homeschooled. It was amazing. It was just amazing. So their mission is to help homeschoolers network with each other so you don't feel alone. That is our big thing. Got a piece of paper stuck in there. The website is mission.org for you visual learners. I'm old enough to wear glasses now. There's a board of volunteer directors, and they coordinate all the support groups on the website. They have actually taken the state of Michigan and divided it into 10 regions. So Kent, Allegan, and Ottawa County are Region 5. And my husband and I are hopefully keeping that web page current There's support groups that are popping up all the time, and there are support groups that are like, okay, we're done, we've served our time, and we're moving on, because they've either all graduated out or the need is not there anymore. But from that has come these great organizations, like instead of families getting together saying, hey, we all like theater, let's just do something little, and it has turned into, we have paid directors and paid choreographers, and it's called Homeschool Performing Arts. And then there's West Michigan Fine Arts Band, and there's sports programs, there's basketball and soccer and baseball and volleyball, and I just met somebody from track, another new group that I didn't know about. At the conference in May is a vendor hall, probably about as big as the DeVos place, full of curriculum. When I started homeschooling, moms and dads wrote the books, went to Kinko's, got it printed off, the kids drew the pictures, and that's what we used. And now they're nicely printed, they're hardbound. Homeschooling's come a long way since 1984. It's come a long ways. Yeah, Mission is here to help you find your people and help you find your groups. If you want to personally message me, find us on Facebook under Mission, and we are Region 5 reps. You can send us a personal message and we will get it in our inbox, and we can help you network with, hey, Johnny won't get out of bed this morning, to help me connect with, do you know of any groups that do X, Y, and Z? But I started, just do it. There is no going back for us. There's so many blessings, it's unbelievable. So it's just been a huge thing for our family. We're a lot closer together than we ever would have been segregated in those individual classes. And everybody gets in each other's faces too sometimes.
Okay, before the rest of the panel introduces themselves, we're going to have rapid fire questions. Question number 1, Angie, you're up. And we'll go right down the line. You ready? How many hours do you spend teaching core academics on an average day?
About 17 and a half. I'm kidding. Totally kidding. Totally kidding. No, I do not get up at 5 unless my little... Anyway, I have my goal to be done teaching my children by noon, and they need to be done with their independent work. They're usually done by 3 at the latest. Just depends on their ages. The high schoolers are done by 3. The younger grades are done much sooner.
Same question?
Same question.
Same answer.
In our house, we strive for no more than 3 hours a day, 4 days a week.
In our house, the academics go on a long time because they are combined with all kinds of extracurricular things. For instance, today, the 2 boys were scheduled to go out and build a chicken tractor mover with bicycle wheels for disabled farmers to be able to move their chicken tractors around without breaking chicken legs. So I don't know, how long were they out there, 3 hours? No idea. They just take the welder and start cutting bikes apart. And so I also schedule in all their morning chores. Cleaning your room is scheduled in to what is required to be done with homeschooling for the day. So I would say our homeschooling lasts, I'm looking at my husband, he's in the front row. It's all mixed together. It's just life happens and homeschooling happens in with life. So verses in the morning at the breakfast table take 45 minutes. We sing our songs, our meals are scheduled in there, and when we go to bed at night, we're tired and the firewood's cut and the garden's picked, and hopefully all the tools that needed to be invented that day were done.
Rachel is a recent homeschool graduate, and she actually understands the concept of rapid fire questions. Go.
Okay, so as she said, I feel a little bit out of place because I have no personal experience. But when I was homeschooled, typically we would have things done at least by 3 o'clock in the afternoon or 4 o'clock. But like they said, homeschooling was so neat because it was a year-round experience. I got to claim cooking in the kitchen as home economics. I mean, so if you count that, it's all throughout life, which is the nice thing. But yeah, I really appreciated that. Usually it would be done in the early afternoon.
We're going to work on the rapid fire thing. The next question is going to go much faster, so be ready, guys. Okay. Please complete this statement. We don't take snow days, but we do blank. Go.
Sundays. We do Sundays. We can go to the beach when other people can't. We can do things. It's fun.
We do maple syrup, usually 7 weeks in the spring, and that's the spring break, and it lasts as long as sugar season lasts.
We take field trips and road trips whenever we want.
Right after Labor Day.
Right.
The trips are just part of the day, so whatever comes up, we don't necessarily do school every day, but yeah, we're doing something, and we can take off and do whatever we want to do, visit the museums like he said, or hit the beach, or go hiking and climbing.
We also do pajama days every Friday. That's the favorite day, is pajama day. So
There's a group for that. There seriously is. It's called 1,000 Hours Outside.
Cool.
Here's your challenge. Can you keep your kids outside for 1,000 hours this year? And there's a ton of ideas out there. Us personally, I got teenage girls. We sleep in.
Okay, we don't want our cookies to get stale, so quickly, what do you love most about homeschooling? Go.
flexibility.
Spending times with my kids.
Learning and relearning right along with my children.
Sitting on the couch with all my kids around me reading.
I actually like my siblings.
Oh, no, it's Mario and Angie's turn.
She didn't give her answer.
Oh, you didn't give your answer, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Sorry.
That's all right, I forgive you.
Relationships.
You want me to give my spiel?
Yes, please.
Okay. Overwhelmed, scared, nervous. Enough about me. How are you guys doing? Anyone who knows me, which maybe 25% of you in here know me, that I like to make people giggle a little bit, so thank you for those who indulged me. I am not an expert, so maybe it's easy to think, oh, those people up there, they're experts, I'm not like them, I can't do it. I'm not an expert, I'm a regular person doing just the next thing. So I say that to hopefully encourage you to also be regular and do the next thing. I'm a mom of 6. I've got 2 all the way up to my oldest will be 19 on Sunday. He's in college, so homeschool graduate. We started 13 years ago with the intent to homeschool for just 1 year. We pulled our oldest when we were going to 2nd grade. We were in crisis. Does anyone remember 2008? Yeah, that was my crisis. We were terrified, overwhelmed, and uncertain. Our friends and family weren't supportive. They said judgy and unkind things. Anybody relate? Homeschool was never on my radar. I didn't really know about it until after I graduated high school. And even then I was like, nope, not me. I'm gonna mess up my kids. I don't have patience. You know, all of the typical things that you see. Are you feeling these things right now? Terrified, yes. I was worried about college for my 2nd grader. Somebody gently helped me realize that, and that framed my perspective the year to year. We're just gonna do it this year, and then next year, and so on. You know, and then I thought, like, I loved doing marching band, and I loved doing all these extracurriculars with my friends, is that available? Yes, it is. There's a marching band, march in the summertime. There are prom, formal type dances, all the sports they already mentioned. So there's ways to do this to make it fun for the kids and engaging with other like-minded people. So that, as I was asking those questions of people around me and doing research online, and I went to the homeschool building, and I bought some curriculum. Some were not good ones, and that's okay to realize. I gradually grew a thick skin because I just chose not to engage with people who were criticizing me for making the decision to homeschool. Curiosity is fine. I will talk with curious people all day long, but if you're going to criticize me about my choice, we're not going to go there. You have the right to put that boundary up. That's okay. I'm going to camp on this for a second. You know what's best for your family, and you don't have to justify that to anyone who doesn't have skin in your game. Can I have a holla? You know what's best for your family, and you don't have to justify that to anyone who doesn't have skin in your game. So you make it happen. You start with your basic subjects and add more in. Don't be like me, where I wanted to do the whole heap because everything looked amazing. He was in 2nd grade and a preschooler. Okay, I have learned this. It's taken me the better part of a decade to realize that we don't have to do all the things when they're 5 years old, okay? Some of you in this room have helped me realize that. You just start with the basics, reading, writing, arithmetic, and then you add in as you find your groove. The younger the kid, the less you need. You do not need to duplicate public school. That being said, I did buy a couple things for my kid that matched what he did in school so that I thought he would make that transition easier. Not everything, and we didn't do it for 10 hours a day. You just do the next thing. Figure out what needs to be done and do the next thing. You'll start to figure it out. Reach out to people around you. Find a community. It's scary. When I came to Link, which meets here, we've been in Link going on our 11th year now, I sort of only kind of knew one person. That was terrifying. I'm an introvert, so that's double terrifying. But we did it, and we found people that are just amazing for the way that we choose to live our life, and we just do that right alongside each other and help each other out. And as it's been mentioned a few times now, there's a gazillion resources in West Michigan. Every type of thing that you want to do, there's probably available within a 30 to 45-minute drive. I can't think of anything that you could probably throw at me that we couldn't find. Yeah, it's basically you have to control yourself so you're actually home to do some school. That's what it comes down to. You can even start your own group. You might be finding that groups are full. The group that I am chairperson of is running on full right now. And we do have opportunities for general members, but our classes are full. But you might want to just join up with a few mom friends and say, I'll teach science, you teach history, you do art. We're going to do this once a week. That might work for you. Or maybe you just go out and do field trips once a month or every other week. Or I don't know, you start small. Like I said, start basic, you grow it as it feels comfortable. The best thing about homeschooling in Michigan is the freedom and flexibility to do the way that works best for your family. It's amazing. It's amazing to be here, and I hope that you jump on board, and I hope this calms your fears just a smidge.
Hello, my name is Tom. We've been homeschooling for quite a while. We've graduated 8 so far, and we've got 4 more to go. So we've got some time spent in. I'm going to talk about the role of the father. And if you look at this room, it's pretty indicative that the heavy lifting is going to be done by the moms. And that's okay. I mean, that's just the way it works sometimes. So my role has been more of a supportive role, and as the head of the house, kind of setting the tone for where we go as a family. So the very first thing for our family is that my wife and I realize that we're raising souls that are going to live eternity somewhere. It's going to be heaven or hell. So that's the first thing that we're hitting every morning. So if we get nothing done but Bible and the rest of the day hits the crapper, that's fine, because we have accomplished what we want to accomplish with our children. That's the most important thing. So that overarching goal is what everything else falls underneath. There's another, and that's maybe not necessarily with education, and we have two more that deal with the educational side. The one is, why are you even here? The majority of you are here because of masks or a vaccine or CRT, but that wasn't around 20, 30, 40 years ago when homeschooling has been started. The reason you are here is because you love your kids and you want what's best for them. So your day, like everybody else has said, may not be all about math, reading, writing, and history. It may be about other things. So the time that you're spending with your children, instructing them in those things, may wander into something else, where now you're taking your kids out to visit somebody in a nursing home, help the old guy across the street cut his grass. That is all part of the homeschooling, because you are building your children. That's part of it. And then, so that's one of the, has more to do with our education, what we're worried about with our kids. And then the other one is, you're not replicating the classroom by any means. You're replicating the resource room. Because what happens in the resource room at school? Child comes in, gets one-on-one instruction on their level, the way that they learn best. If it's tactile, you're giving them something tactile. If it's reading and at a different level than the rest of the class, that's what they're getting. And that's what you're giving your students. They're your kids. You know them best. You know how your kids learn. I mean, some of our sons, the best thing for them is to send them out to the barn and give them a motor to take apart. You know, put it back together, and then show me the process. Right, you know, with some of our young boys, when they were in kindergarten or so, writing in sand, because it's tactile. They don't want to hold a pen. They don't want to sit there. You know, you don't want to be stereotypical, but, you know, hey, fractions, multiplying fractions, adding fractions, that's baking. You know, go double that recipe. Make me some cookies. You know, I'm hungry. So all of those things are actually education. It's not schooling, but it's education. You're actually teaching your kids. So in our family, I am the supportive role to make sure that my wife and my children realize that those goals are what we're looking forward to. So sometimes that means, you know, getting the kids to smarten up a little bit, you know. And sometimes it's also bringing my wife back to reality, not to worry about some of these things, just let the kids run. You know, I mean, you've invested all of this time, ladies, in getting this curriculum. That's what you're here for. You want to find out, what am I supposed to teach my kids? So now you've got this list that you want to go through. But that list is not the most important thing. And so sometimes my role as a husband is to support my wife by saying, hey, let's just calm down a second here, and let's just enjoy it. But at the same time, I want to make sure that I know that she feels my support, that if she's had a bad day or a good day, so the first thing I do when I come home is, hey, how's your day been? How are the kids? That's the support that you give as a husband. You may not teach the class. I can tell you right now, my older kids have passed on to the younger kids, don't let dad teach you math. Find somebody else, because he thinks it's so simple, and they sit there with a dead fisheye looking at me like, what are you trying to teach me? So I don't teach math anymore.
So I'm probably the least experienced up here at the table. I'll be going into my 5th year of homeschooling my children. I pulled my 2 boys from 1st grade and kindergarten would be the last years that they did at public school here in Lowell. They are 2 polar opposite learners. I have one that I could drop off somewhere on the street and he'd find his way home and he'd be just fine. I've got the other one who was diagnosed a gifted learner, and I probably lost more hair trying to figure out what type of learner and how he needed to learn than I have. Your first year of homeschooling, get to know your children. Find out what type of learner they are. Because one may be a visual learner, one may just want to die hard read into the books. The other, you know, maybe they just want to go on field trips. And you are in a wonderful area, because not only are there groups that you can be a part of, but there's social groups as well. And among those social groups, even if you don't want to be social, they're all organizing field trips. And we had field trips all through COVID. And my children got to do things like blacksmithing. We got to go to a handicapped farm and learn how he has learned to do everything that he was raised as a child to do and still be able, you know, to function. It probably was one of the most meaningful field trips we had gone on. Thank you, Ned. Seriously, the best part of homeschooling is building relationship with your children. We do math, we do English, our history and our science and any other subjects that we do kind of like story time in my house. Even though my children are a year apart as far as what typically would be in public school, we do it all the same. We sit down together, we take turns reading, we have in-depth conversations, and I guarantee you, especially the first year, you're gonna be far more insecure about this than your children are. You're gonna put way more pressure on yourself than your children will. And you just need to absorb it and learn and know that it's not gonna be perfect, it might be messy, and if you don't get everything done during the day, that's okay, because I'm gonna tell you right now, if you get a quarter done of what you've determined you wanna do in homeschooling, you're probably still gonna be farther ahead than what a teacher who has 28 to 30 students in a room is able to accomplish, because you're able to do it one-on-one. So reach out, ask questions, I'm here, but man, there's so many resources in this area. You are in a phenomenal area to homeschool. You're gonna be overwhelmed and having to cancel things and back off from things because you'll sign up for way too much.
I'm Heidi. I have 6 children, 3 graduated, those 3 in college, and 3 more to go. And the thing I appreciate most about homeschooling is being a family and living life together, doing it together. And we all have bad days, we all have rough days, and we all butt heads with our children. And the biggest thing is to know when to back off, and thankfully I have a husband who works upstairs, and once in a while he'll come down and motion me out of the room and say, cool it. It's mom losing it, not the kid. And you spend a lot of nights imploring the Lord for the mistakes you made that day and asking his forgiveness, and then the next day you have to go ask your child's forgiveness. That comes with the territory. It's part of what it means to be a family. And they need to see us being repentant so that they can be repentant. Having said that, we do a lot of book. I have, of the 6 children, 3 of them are dyslexic. Those subjects don't come easy. However, every single one of my dyslexic children have a gift that the other ones don't have. They get to geometry and they can see it. They can sew, they can weld, they can put things together that those without dyslexia don't have, to the point where one day I had my most academic child crying, "It's not fair. I don't have it. I don't have the gift they do." And I thought, okay, I succeeded in something. I wanted everybody to be able to do what they do well. I wanted them to be able to do it well. And sometimes you look at their handwriting and you think, but you know what? A child that can't read can still do math and can still do it well. You have to help them out in the areas that they can't do. And the areas that they can do, they need lots and lots of encouragement. And I have a child here that I might be giving some things away from. We do 4-H in the summer. My children have no idea that everything they do in 4-H counts for school and gets put on their transcript. They think it's fun. They think they're just taking a project to the fair. They think they're training a cow. Mom's writing it down. How many people have children in high school? First year children in high school. Raise your hand. Okay. The difficult thing of this is, how are we going to put together a transcript? How's this child going to get into college? It all counts. Everything counts. The only thing that doesn't count is video games. Other than that, it counts. I keep a notebook. Every morning, I write down everything that happened the day before that wasn't academic. So, for instance, next week, Heidi's Farm Stand, I take the kids out and they do reenactments at Heidi's Farm Stand for all the 3rd graders in the Lowell area. And they're having a great time. They're playing Indians in the woods with their friends, building fires, running around with tomahawks. So they think that's just a riot. And I go home and write down, okay, yeah, they talked in 6 classes. All right, that's public speaking. They've been doing Michigan history all day long. All right, so, and then my big thing is at the end of the year trying to figure out, okay, what classes do I need to count this for? So we do our academics, we do our math, we do our science, our handwriting, but a lot of the other classes are not true classes. They're just the delight-directed things that come up, the sewing projects that took place, and I just kind of keep track of my hours so I have a clue at the end of the year what they did. Our family does not compete in organized or competitive sports. So we had this PE credit that we needed to fulfill. So I thought, how am I going to fulfill a PE credit when we don't do sports? Well, we took a family backpacking trip to Isle Royale. It was a reward. We packed up, took 6 kids out hiking, and when you're on Isle Royale for 6.5 days, you can get a PE credit in 6.5 days, all the way there. It's great. And we did it as a family, and nobody had any clue they were in school. And I could carve out some hours that I decided, oh, those were biology. when we were on top of the mountain with a botanist that had happened to show up, and she was showing us native flowers on Isle Royale, okay. Who else had that? So I'm encouraging you with high school students, write down all the other things. Write down if they make a pie, and take it to the neighbor. Is that home ec? Is that life skills? What is it? Is it math? You're right. Whatever it needs to go by. So there are a myriad of ways to do this, and I just want to echo what Tom said. If it comes down between the academics and the heart, you need to stop and you need to work on the heart. Because math is going to burn with a fervent heat someday. And all those textbooks. And I do want to say this. I suffered through phonics so that I could get to high school and teach real things. And we all have different gifts, and you're going to do better with some subjects than you do with others. And it's okay. There's a lady in this area who does a phenomenal job teaching writing. And that's great. I can teach her kids chemistry, and she can teach mine writing. And I don't have to go to a subject that I can't stand, and she doesn't have to do one she can't stand. So that's the other thing about community. And grandpas are great. Grandpas can teach all kinds of things. Just keep reaching out in your circles.
So my name is Rachel. I come from the opposite side of this. I was the oldest of 8 kids. I was the guinea pig, as they say. And I'm here to say that you can do it. Your kids will thank you someday. They will thank you from the bottom of their hearts. because it's been the greatest blessing in my life to be able to have been homeschooled. I look back and I'm just so grateful for everything my parents did. I was the stubborn child. I was strong-willed in every sense of the word. There were days when I did not enjoy it. There were days when my mom did not enjoy it. But in the end, it was all worth it. In the end, you realize it was crazy. My parents are my best friends. So many people don't have that. So many people go on in life and there's so many issues. I can say, my mom can sometimes say at like 12 o'clock at night when I'm sitting in her room chatting away, she's like, oh, just please go to bed. But I'm like, but I have so much to tell you. Like, you're my best friend. And I will say too, the blessing that was of being homeschooled was there was so much flexibility. I am a reader, and I would just go off and read. And it's amazing. You don't even have to necessarily sit down and talk to your children. You can say, hey, read this book. My mom actually had to ground me from reading because I loved reading so much. It was still crazy. And I grew close to my siblings. I mean, we argued. We still argue. But as my parents said, those are the people that are going to be with you your whole entire life. Those are the people that are going to stick with you through thick and thin. You might as well make friends with them now, you know? They won't leave you, you know? You go on through different phases of life. So many people, they disappear or you move on to different aspects. But I can talk to my siblings. I can share things with them. And also on that side note with socialization, if you're worried about that aspect, because that's the thing everybody says, oh, your kids, they won't be socialized. Those homeschooled weirdos, like, they just sit in their bedrooms on, like, calculators all day. Like, what do they do? That is definitely not the case. I am very socialized. In fact, as a homeschooler, it was such a blessing because I learned to speak to people of every age. I was not stuck with people in my grade. I was not stuck talking to somebody who was like 6 months younger or older than me. I got to have discussions with people who were 80 years older than me, who were 50 years older. I could talk to moms and sit in conversations with other homeschooled moms and hear them share things back and forth, and you gain so much valuable insight through that even as a young person. I got to be part of a homeschool group, which was another one of the biggest blessings of my life. I could talk to people. I could help out in classes. There's just so much flexibility. In fact, I just started college, and we had the opening day, and I was talking with somebody next to me, and she's like, I was so scared when I came in here. I was so terrified to have to talk to people. She's like, you probably had it easy because you were homeschooled. I was like, hold on a second. Like, this is the opposite. But it was true, because when you're homeschooled, you're not stuck with your age grade. You're not stuck with somebody who's in the same path of life at the same moment you are. You get the wisdom from all these culminated generations. And yeah, it's a huge blessing, and I would definitely encourage you to do it because your kids will thank you someday.
We were going to open this up to question and answer with the expert panel, but it is now 8:15, and I want each and every one of you to be able to ask all of your questions, and we would be here till 2 o'clock in the morning if we stayed. So I suggest we move everybody over to the gym where all of the support groups and, not yet, wait a minute. We're going to go over there, and you're going to watch for us with name tags that have got the 2 tags, and you're going to pick your people to ask the questions of. And I'm serious. Ask those questions. We're not afraid of you. We're here to help you. And there's nothing too personal, and if it is too personal, we'll tell you. Then we'll figure out how to help you, okay? All right. So, is Steve Matthews still here? No. Tom Day, would you close us in prayer, please?
Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this time that we could spend together. Just pray that you will calm any fears that anyone has. This is a big step, taking control of something that may seem like muddy waters. I just pray that you will give wisdom and encouragement and just the ability to enjoy this next phase if they go forward with it, because it can be fun. And we just thank you for the opportunity to share experiences that we've had and the knowledge that we've gained through this. Just give us a safe trips home and all the directions that we're headed. In your name we pray, amen.